With summer just around the corner, Shonen Jump having a lot of good series currently running, and the fact that I need to find more series to talk about, I feel like now is a good time to introduce you to a few series that I think will be well worth your time and that you can spend the summer reading. So strap in as we go over some of what I think are the best currently running series in Shonen Jump and a few other publishers. Hello Internet, Jojo here, and if you're watching this video, I imagine that, like me, you really enjoy reading manga or watching anime. With the summer upon us, and the fact that many of us were spending a lot of time inside, out of the heat, we're probably going to have a lot of extra time doing nothing. So what is one supposed to do with that time? Well, that's the question that we'll be solving today. I have gathered 10 great manga series, most currently running, that I will probably be rereading, and that I think that you guys will very much enjoy. So, in no particular order, let's start off with the most recent manga to be released in Shonen Jump, and our number 10 on this list, Chojin X. Number 10, Chojin X. This series comes to us from Sui Ishida, the author of Tokyo Ghoul. Chojin X is so new that as of the moment I'm voicing this, it is the only series that has one chapter. The series starts off light, but gets dark, really fast. Effectively, the main character, Tokyo Kurohara, Tokyo is spelled with an I instead of a Y, is very shy, often compared to a buzzard, as his shyness is often mistaken for leeching off his best friend, Azuma Higashi, who has quite the opposite personality. After a chance encounter with some thugs who Azuma beat up as they were harassing a girl, these thugs tracked the two down. But these were not the same thugs as before, whose arms Azuma had broken. This time, the biggest and baddest of these thugs had powers. People with powers are not that uncommon in this world, and are commonly called Chojin. Chojin powers are given via injection, and as Tokyo and Azuma lay on the ground, nearly beaten to death by the thug Chojin, they see two injectors dropped on the ground by the two thugs who had not injected themselves yet. After Azuma states that he can't just let the Chojin run rampant, and that he was going to use the injection to stop him, Tokyo finally had enough, saying that if he didn't do anything now, he didn't feel that he could stay friends with Azuma. Understanding what Tokyo meant and how he felt, they faced each other with the injections in hand and injected each other. Suddenly, the Chojin found them and attacked them, but in an instant, Tokyo, reborn as a bestial buzzard Chojin, struck the thug in the face, launching him into the sky. And that's where the chapter ends. Now, for me personally, I haven't read Tokyo Ghoul, so I don't know what to expect from this series. But considering that the author's previous work was called Tokyo Ghoul, I get a little bit of an inkling. So that is my number 10 series I will keep reading this summer, and that I think might be worth your time considering it's one chapter and is by a well-known and well-respected author. Number 9, Candy Flurry. Being only about 5 chapters long, there's not a whole lot of information to go off of for this series in particular at this point in time. But just using what we have so far, the series breaks down like this. In the world of Candy Flurry, there are people who gain the ability to conjure confections by eating a specific rare type of candy. These powers are exclusively candy themed, hence the name of the series, Candy Flurry. I mean, if they were car themed, it'd be called Car Wreck, or something like that. It is because of these powers that one of these people, known as a lollipop user, was capable of destroying the entire city of Tokyo. This event caused the organization known as the Rosette, the Sweet Police, to crack down far harder on illegal sweets users. The Rosette used their own special abilities and weapons to take down rogue sweet users with the main goal of eventually taking out the infamous lollipop user who destroyed Tokyo. No two sweet users can have the same ability, but our hero, Tsumugi Menase, a sweets-obsessed schoolgirl, just so happens to be a sweets user with the ability to summon lollipops out of thin air. One day, after absolutely destroying a thug who threatened her, she was tracked down by a member of the Rosette, Masaki Midori, who suspected her of being an illegal sweets user. However, before he could prove anything, a rampaging donut user appeared in the city. After Masaki found out his attacks were pretty much useless, he glanced up and saw Tsumugi jumping from the roof, giant lollipop in hand and aiming at the giant monster. With only a single hit, Tsumugi knocked out the monster. She then turned and confessed that she was a lollipop user, but it was not her who destroyed Tokyo. This is the basic plot of the series so far. I obviously left out some stuff because if I told you everything, you probably wouldn't read it. This could change drastically. As of the 3rd chapter, Tsumugi asked Misaki how she could become a member of the Reset, meaning that this could take a drastic turn from a story about a superpowered fugitive to a story about a superpowered FBI agent who's trying to hide her powers. But I don't know. This series captured my attention quite easily as I both like food and fighting. So, what is there not to love? If I was to compare this to another series, I would say that it is a sweet Chainsaw Man, with each sweet users being unique and the series itself having a relatively lighthearted and cheery setting in an otherwise extremely dark world. So, Candy Flurry makes it onto my list as the number 9 suggestion of what you can check out when you have a few minutes to spare. Number 8. My Hero Academia Vigilantes, or Illegals, depending on what translation you read. While the main series of My Hero helped me get through a rough time a few years back, once I discovered Vigilantes, I knew that I loved it way more than the original. The series takes place a few years before the main series starts, during the times that Midnight, All Might, and Aizawa were active pro heroes. This series offers a very good look at the world that we don't see while spending much time with UA students. It even shows us how All Might and Tsukauchi became friends and what it was like for All Might to be a hero while devastatingly sick. However, as the name Vigilantes implies, the heroes are not the main characters. It is the Vigilantes who take the starring role. The main character, Koichi, an All Might fan who missed out on a chance to become a hero for multiple reasons, mostly because his quirk was not suited to hero work, Popstep, who for the life of me, I can't remember her real name and I don't want to Google it. Also, even if I did know her real name, I'd still call her Popstep, because that's what I know her by. She is probably best described as what you would get if a failed America's Got Talent contestant wanted to be famous, but didn't know about YouTube. So instead of that, she uses her jumping quirk to jump all around the city, singing concerts for her fans. Lastly, and my personal favorite character, Knuckle Duster. Knuckle Duster is a grizzled, quirkless vigilante who tends to punch first and ask questions later. Unlike the other vigilantes who stumbled onto vigilante life, Knuckle Duster chose this life in order to take down a quirk enhancement drug ring. This series goes far deeper into the world and into the characters that the main series never has. Vigilantes introduce Captain Celebrity, who is essentially what you get if I got superpowers, and spends probably more time with the older Ida brother, Tensai Ida, than the main series does with Tenya. We meet Mirako as a troublemaking school student, and even meet a few villains before they show up in the main series. Like I said before, I like Vigilantes far more than the main series. It feels far grittier, darker, and yet is somehow more brighter and hopeful in the bright moments. You don't have your grand scale villains who destroy buildings with their bare hands, but you have more diabolical villains. Villains who create an atmosphere of terror, would blow up a building full of people because there's people in it, not the byproduct of some fight, and they would not hesitate to infect people with a mind-controlling parasite that has to be pulled out from their eye socket with someone's bare hands. I love that panel. So, all this said, this is the 8th series that I'm going to spend my summer reading and rereading, and I think that you guys would enjoy it too. Number 7. Eden Zero. I've already made a video about Eden Zero, so I'm not going to rehash it here. Now, I will admit that since the series had come out, and since I've made that video, my enthusiasm over it has waned a little bit. However, I can still say that I really do enjoy the series, and the anime is pretty good. While you might have heard people call it Fairy Tale in Space, I can confirm that, like it or not, it is not Fairy Tale in Space. If you do actually read the series, it won't take long to discover that it's clearly not Fairy Tale. The characters, while having similar looks to those in Fairy Tale, are much different. The power of friendship is not nearly as useful, with even villains trying to use it, and the series is quite a bit darker. Also, unlike most of the rest of the series on this list, Eden Zero is actually the only series on this list not from Shonen Jump. For those of you who don't know, this story follows a group of, I hesitate to call them adventurers, as they are far more like space pirates. You wouldn't get this feeling from early bits of the anime or manga, but once they get their spaceship, the Eden Zero, the name of the show, it's way more obvious. Eden Zero is a series that I very much enjoy, but in all honesty, I would have to put it as a lower priority when compared to any other series on this list, as it is already well established and has an anime. Number 6. Blue Box. While I do enjoy series like Berserk, Toriko, and King and Ashura, all series that I really want to make a video on, but just haven't yet, sometimes you just need to simply relax and watch a series like Kaiju, Love is War, Nagatoro, and now Blue Box. Though I keep wanting to call it Bluebird because the title reminds me of the Naruto opening. Like other series on this list, the series has already stuck in my brain as something that I look forward to every week. The series is about a guy, Taiki Inomata, who is on his school's badminton team and has a crush on the star player of the girls' basketball team, Chinatsu Kano. He does your typical teenage thing of not interacting with her at all, save for a few rather charming encounters. After learning that her family was moving away, he discovers that his mom and her mom were alumni from the same school and that, by pure chance, Chinatsu would be staying with them in the same house for the rest of school. So, all of a sudden, Taki finds himself living in the same house with his crush, and of course, many funny antics ensue. Now, like the other ones on this list, there's very little to talk about as it's new to Shonen Jump. But it appears that neither of the characters are stupid and they both act like normal people. Shocking, I know. In the second chapter, there is a slight misunderstanding, but unlike other series, which who knows what they do, the two main characters actually talk about it and clear it up. In my opinion, it's also good that Taki's crush is not based on something superficial like how pretty she is. Instead, his crush is developed over seeing how hard she works and how much she cares about what she wants. Surprisingly deep for a series like this. When I was first reading this series, I got the feeling that it was going to be much different from other similar stories. Especially Taiki, who actually strives to better himself so he's not dragging her down. That is not to say that it's not going to go through several stereotypical romance plot lines like the other guy plotline, which seems to be starting now. But sometimes you just do need a break from the fighting and superpowers. So, Blue Box is the 6th series I think would be worth checking out when you feel the need to read something that offers a more romantic type of stress over fighting stress. Number 5. Toriko. Toriko is one of my favorite manga series ever, sometimes even surpassing my love for One Piece. And that's saying a lot. Though the anime is bad to say the least, reading the manga is the best manga reading experience I've ever had, and I've read it twice. While it might not appear to be that intriguing on the surface, being a series that revolves around food and hunting special ingredients, it's definitely worth it. In case you don't know, Toriko is a battle-heavy, bloody, action-intense series, while simultaneously being goofy and a good time all around. For those of you who are into world building, you guys would love Toriko, as I firmly believe that it surpasses even One Piece in that area. And you guys know how much I love One Piece, so I wouldn't say that unless I thought it was true. Now, Toriko, the main but definitely not only fantastic character, is a gourmet hunter. In the modern era, the gourmet era, it is up to gourmet hunters to hunt down the rarest ingredients and foods no matter where in the world they are. If you've read Hunter x Hunter, then think of this as an amped up version of what Machi and Buhara do. From giant alligators and fruits that are so potent that a single drop can flavor an entire Olympic swimming pool, to a larger than mountain mammoth and lightning bird. The insanity is overwhelming as Toriko travels all across the globe in search for ingredients and food that tastes good. The basic plot is not complicated. It starts off with a simple concept and introduces new elements and plot points every arc, transforming it into a really beautiful, naturally evolving series. So, if you like things that are absolutely insane, then you would love Toriko. So, Toriko is my number 5 pick for something to read this summer. Number 4. Sakamoto Days. Sakamoto Days is a mix between a slice of life and Red the movie. You know, with Bruce Willis. Basically, it's about a former assassin, Sakamoto, the best of all times, who decides to retire, start a family, and run a convenience store. However, after a few years and a kid, his former boss came calling and put a bounty on his head. From then on out, he spends every day taking out every assassin who comes to kill him. Because of this particular set of skills that he's acquired over a long career, he is able to keep his life relatively normal while constantly foiling attempts on his life. Now, most of the time, this story is usually depicted as a very serious one, like Red or Jason Bourne, with serious gunfights, serious car chases, and all sorts of seriousness. But in this case, it is more of a comedic style. This is because Sakamoto, even while overweight and out of practice, is still so much faster, stronger, and skilled than everyone else that it becomes less a question of if he can win, but more of what crazy thing is he going to pull off to win.
Old man, my ass.
If you're worried about the whole, my family doesn't know I'm an assassin thing, you should know his family does know, and his wife is awesome about it. She knew he was an assassin when they were first dating, and her, shall we say, extreme actions alone is the reason he stopped killing. So, you also get that only his wife can make him afraid thing, which is hilarious in my opinion. But what I really noticed and liked about it is that Sakamoto is a father and a husband first. This is relatively unique in modern fiction, as typically most characters' fathers are absent, dead, or evil. Possibly all three of them. But I found this to be a really good, wholesome series about a guy who learned the value of life and now has a family who he loves and would do anything to protect. So, being a wholesome action comedy series, Sakamoto Days is the 4th series that you might want to donate some of your time to this summer. Also, Mr. Sakamoto just punched a dinosaur in one of the recent chapters. Number 3. Mashle. What would you get if you combined Harry Potter, Baki, One Punch Man, Mob Psycho, and Black Clover together? You would get Mashle, Magic and Muscles. This is a series about a boy born without magic in a world where magic is everything. In this world, those without magic are outcast. But as a baby, Mash was saved from this fate and grew up in the woods. But one day after he and his father were discovered by the governing authorities, he was given a chance to prove that he was not useless just because he had no magic. Mash was told that if he managed to basically become the top student in this universe's version of Hogwarts, they'd let him be. This task would be completely impossible for a normal human, but Mash has a substantial advantage over the normal human. His father made him work out every day since he could so that he could defend himself a little bit. But little did his father know that this routine turned Mash into a physical monster. His years of working out had given him such physical strength that not only could he keep up with magic users, but could best the vast majority of them. So, under the guise of using muscle magic, he entered school and began his journey to become the #1 student at the school in order to let his father live in peace. Over the 60-ish chapters, Mash goes on to find himself the target of many different people. Think the likes of Draco Malfoy, but way stronger. And he has to use his new muscle magic to take them out while maintaining his cover of having magic. So, Mashle is the 3rd series that I will personally be using to exercise my brain this summer. Number 2. Kaiju number 8. Everyone likes giant monsters, right? I mean, that's not controversial. However, personally, I've always preferred small to medium-sized ones, as they tend to have absurd power in a medium to small package. And that's never been more true than in the case of Kaiju number 8. In a world where monsters, Kaiju, are found rampaging through cities and towns so often that it has become commonplace and a part of normal life, Kafka and a childhood friend make a promise to become members of the defense force, the Kaiju hunting force. However, years later, he found himself working as, effectively, a Kaiju janitor, cleaning up the remains of Kaiju after they'd been defeated. Having spent the last couple years struggling with the fact that he was not accepted into the defense force, and after one particularly tough day where he almost died, Kafka decided that he would give it one last shot. Yet, nearly as soon as he voiced his wish, he found himself inexplicably transforming into a Kaiju, which would later be designated Kaiju number 8. The rest of the story revolves around him balancing his need to control his transformation so that no one finds his secret, his need to do well in the defense force, and make sure that none of his new friends get killed by any Kaiju they come across. When he absolutely needs to, and sometimes when he can just get away with it, he can use his power to transform into a monster so powerful that they can one-shot far larger monsters. Of all the new series on this list, Kaiju number 8 is probably the one that I want to see get an anime adaptation the most, as it is one of those series that just feels like it was made for movement. So, Kaiju number 8 takes the number 2 spot on my list because it's really good. Number 1. UndeadUnluck. UndeadUnluck is really good. The two main characters, Andy and Fuko, Undead and Unluck, hence the name UndeadUnluck, meet quite by chance on a bridge overlooking train tracks. Fuko closes her book and states that now that her favorite series has finished, it's about time to end herself. People call from behind her telling her not to jump, but she fires back that because of some incurable disease, death is her only option. Looking behind her at the train tracks and making a note that she probably have to catch the next train, she all of a sudden heard a squelching of blood. Turning around, she saw that some half-naked guy, it's Andy, had impaled himself on her knife. After freaking out a bit, Andy grabs her and says something about how stale his deaths have been getting. Then, suddenly, a small section of the bridge that he was standing on broke off and fell in front of an oncoming train, splattering him like a bug on a window, killing him instantly. But don't worry, he survived. After that, Andy decides that Fuko's unluck is probably the best chance he has to die permanently. However, soon after that, they find themselves being hunted by the Union, whose job it is to hunt down negators, those who can negate or unmake the laws of the world, like Undead and Unluck. There are many more plot points that come up later that really change the very nature of the series. So, not only would I say that Fuko is best girl, but I would say that this 60 chapter ongoing series is well worth your time and is my #1 pick for what I will be rereading this summer and what I think you'd like. Also, I'm only just realizing that the vast majority of the series that I like involve fugitives. I might have a type that I like. So, in closing, I would say that any and all of these series are worth your time, especially if you have the Shonen Jump app and subscription like I do. If you don't have access to the official manga, I'm sure you can manage something, shall we say, creative. But if you do check out one of these series and find you like it, then just support it in any way you can. That's all I'm asking. So, that said guys, thanks for watching, see you next time, remember to stay spectacular, JoJo, out.